Please won't you pray with me? May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts together find their way into the heart of God this morning. Amen. I quoted Hadestown a few months ago when I said that Jesus has a gift to give. He can see how the world could be in spite of the way that it is. Jesus tells us that we too have a part to play in the coming of God's kingdom. Jesus shows us what the vision for this new earth and new heaven could look like, even as he wanders around trying to heal this broken, brutal, and beautiful world that we live in now. Any decent realtor trying to sell you a real dump, the poet says, chirps on about good bones. This place could be beautiful, right? You could make this place beautiful. It's hard to sell my children the world right now, much less empower them to make it beautiful. America, of course, was never a perfect union, but it is hard for me to explain to my children the mess that we find ourselves in right now. They are older, and my children can see that American democracy is crumbling before their eyes. They don't watch the news, but they don't have to. They know from the school bus that neighbors are pitted against neighbors, and on Snapchat and TikTok, they can see that family members even are pitted against family members. They can see their peers raise up flags for their parents' political teams on the bedroom walls behind them as they FaceTime. And they have fewer safe places to have thoughtful conversation about their questions and differences and concerns. In their schools, they know that teachers have to avoid certain topics for fear of repercussions from angry parents. And their churches even are scared to lose more members. And in the meantime, my children know that they are inheriting a climate crisis that scientists warn could mean the end to human life on the planet. I understand why the Surgeon General declared a teen mental health emergency. But the kids are losing faith because they are watching the adults lose theirs. The adults have lost faith in the institutions that help to keep our country safe, moral, reasonable, educated, and prosperous. Local, state, and federal government, scientific institutions and the medical establishment, law enforcement, the judicial system, the media, the schools, the church, you name it, there are more. And we haven't just lost faith in our leaders, we've also lost faith in each other. We are home more in front of our screens with our nuclear families, afraid of our neighbors, locked inside with cameras facing our front steps, our guns nearby, creating the illusion of safety. It is easier to hate people when we cannot look them in the eye. We think staying locked down keeps our families safe, but it is fear of each other that leads to hatred and violence, and we are not safe as long as we are locked down in our homes. We feel helpless and hopeless, so it seems like we are all just sleepwalking through this time of division, watching whatever trash news makes us feel like our moral intuitions were already right, going to work, fighting on the internet, drinking, shopping. And many of us have given up on church, as we can tell from the many people driving down the street, Main Street. They've given up going to church, they've given up on community life, they've given up on civil service, they've given up on voting. Like the Netflix dramedy, Don't Look Up, we are all just going about our business as usual while the meteor heads straight for planet Earth. We have lost faith in God. We are less likely to lean on our faith or to rely on that beautiful, great, big love that transcends all differences to heal and to save. We are awash in purposelessness and meaninglessness. So, I really resonate with angry Jesus this week in this chapter from Luke that Barbara did not really want to read this morning. When he yells at the crowds, "You know how to interpret the appearance of the earth and sky. Why do you not know how to interpret the present time?" Stressed out, shooken up Jesus. Truthfully, at first, I didn't want to preach this text either, Barbara, when it came up in the lectionary this week. We hate hearing about when the Prince of Peace was not always so peaceful. Amen? No one likes mean Jesus. No one likes divisive Jesus. Certainly no one likes angry, ranting Jesus. But who can blame him? At this point in his story, Jesus knows that his end will be a torturous and traumatic one and that it is coming soon. "What stress I am under," he cries. "How shooken up am I?" It's no wonder that he's stressed. Like all empires, the Roman Empire was creating a facade of peace and security while perpetuating suffering for other parts of the world. And Jesus knew that those in power saw him as a threat because he insisted on disturbing the peace by illuminating the suffering their privilege and power was causing the oppressed, God's people. He knew that they wanted him dead, and he also knew that they would succeed. And Jesus accepts this, but he does not want his death to be for nothing. He looks around at the zombie people scrolling through their Instagram feeds and updating their Amazon shopping lists while the world burns, and he feels enraged, and he feels desperate. Jesus is human, so he too experiences stress. And no one is at their best when they are stressed, not even Jesus. The fight or flight response is an automatic physiological reaction to an event that is perceived as frightening. And the perception of threat activates the sympathetic nervous system and triggers an acute stress response, right? That prepares the body to fight or to flee. It's hard to say. Fight or to flee. I'm a fleer. Are you a fleer or a fighter? Raise your hand if you're a fleer. Raise your hand if you're a fighter. Oh, a lot of fighters. Wow. Church meetings are going to get interesting this year. I'm a fleer, but Jesus is clearly a fighter. In fact, Jesus straight up loses it. He says to the crowds, "Do you think that I've come to bring peace? No, I've come to bring division. From now on, you will be divided, even among your family, even against your parents." We don't like this version of Jesus. We would like him to remain loving, peaceful, and calm, prayerful, like Zach told the kids to be, like a statue of the smiling Buddha. But this very human, stressed out Jesus we encounter instead makes us a little uncomfortable. The Australian paraphrase of this text has Jesus saying, "Do you think I'm here to make everything peaceful and nice on earth? Wrong. I'm not here to paper over the cracks, but to drive a wedge into them, opening them up for all to see. The hostility can no longer be concealed by family solidarity. The cracks will open up, dividing households." Jesus is nothing if not an apocalyptic preacher. And the word apocalypse comes from the Greek, to uncover or to reveal. And Jesus reveals the truth of the world as it is, even as he sells us on the world as God dreams it to be. And it's not hard to see the division he's describing everywhere we look, right? And even the ways in which a wedge has been driven through the generations, we can see that too, can't we? We can see that when it comes to issues like abuse of power and injustice and racism and poverty and sexism and homophobia and transphobia and war and democracy and inequality and hatred and violence and healthcare disparity and homeless veterans and addiction and idolatry and greed. And Jesus' message is urgent and dystopian. Look around. Do not close your eyes to the truth of suffering, injustice, and cruelty. This creates hostility, this message. Hostility that can no longer be concealed. We don't want to see the ugly in the world because it implicates us. It demands that we do something to fix it. And at the same time, Jesus points us toward a different world, one we have a hand in helping to create. The beloved community, the kingdom of heaven, the somewhere over the rainbow. So what's in that world? Help me out. What's in that world? Just call it out from your seat. In the kingdom of heaven. Birds? Yeah. Sunshine? Peace. Karaoke bars. Amen. What else? Music. Good love. Somebody said beer. I'm not sure if that's true. Good beer. Compassion, right? Justice. Hope. Music. Healing. Love. Unity. Jesus' message about the kingdom of heaven is urgent and utopian. Look around, he says. Open your eyes to the truth of compassion, to the truth of justice, to the truth of peace, to the truth of love. We don't want to see what heaven looks like either, because this vision creates hostility too. We don't want to see the beauty in this world because it implicates us too. It demands that we work for it. We've been trying to sell this world to our children, but perhaps the children can sell this world to us instead. I don't know if you saw this in the news this week, but reporter Christopher Brito from CBS News wrote about it. He said, a scary moment during a Little League regional tournament in Waco, Texas on Tuesday turned into an inspiring display of sportsmanship after a player hit by a pitch comforted the pitcher who hit him. Did you guys see this? I don't know if I can even get through this story without crying. For some reason, maybe because I'm a softball mom, but it makes me cry every time. Pitcher Caden Shelton of Pearland, Texas, was facing batter Isaiah Jarvis of Tulsa, Oklahoma, when he lost control of the ball, and he hit Jarvis's helmet at the Little League Southwest Regional Playoff Final. And Jarvis, the batter, he fell to the ground and held his head as coaches rushed to check on him. Those are fast balls that they throw, even though it's Little League. And moments later, Jarvis was cleared. He was okay, and he walked to first base. However, the pitcher, Shelton, the one who hit him, was still shaken up, and he began to cry on the mound. And seeing that he was so scared and sad, Jarvis, the man on first base, walked toward the mound, and he hugged the pitcher. He hugged Shelton. He told him, "Hey, you're doing great. Let's go." The gesture was applauded in the ballpark and online, where many people hailed it as a true moment of sportsmanship. And Jarvis told CBS News that if he was in Shelton's shoes, he would be pretty scared too. If you're throwing hard and you just hit somebody in the head, it's got to be a scary thing, he said. So I just wanted to go over there and make sure he was all right. Make sure he knows that I'm all right. and really just encourage him. This boy had a gift to give. He could see the world as it could be in spite of the way that it is. He could see that in a moment of real stress and vulnerability, a member from the opposing team feared his own capacity to cause harm. And instead of exploiting his opponent's weakness for power and dominance, he reached out in compassion with a hug. Hey, you're doing great. Let's go. This place could be beautiful, right? We could make this place beautiful. Amen.